Welcome to cleverapple.com. Today we're just going to review some things we talked about on expenses and your tutor business. It's one of the ways that you can make more money is by spending less. There are some things that you, of course, don't want to cut back on. There are some ways that you want to advertise smartly. So, we'll also give you some ideas on cutting back on your fixed expenses. If you go to the blog, Clever Apple, you can read these. I just want to touch on some highlights. Okay. In your business, you have some fixed expenses and you have variable expenses. Your fixed expenses are those expenses that stay the same no matter how many people you're tutoring. If you're tutoring one person or you're tutoring 100, those expenses remain the same. You also have variable expenses. Those expenses, as your business grows, those expenses would go up. So example of a fixed expense would be, say health insurance. Those would remain the same unless you hire more employees and offer them insurance. A variable expense, of course, would be if you have one student, you're not going to have many employees. If you have 100 students, you may have 5 or 10 employees. Those employees are variable expenses. Okay? There are some things in your business that you won't want to skimp on. One of the things is employees. Hiring good employees can sometimes be difficult. When you find a good employee, you'll want to make sure that you keep them, keep them happy. And the best way to keep them happy is to pay them well. Some other things, your website, you need a website. You can take it off your taxes. It works very well, but you don't want to skip on it. Some other things is software. We've talked about some different pieces of software in our tutoring guide. Those are some points that you don't want to skimp on. Advertising. One thing you want to do is you want to track your advertising. If you, example, what I like to do is use different offers for different advertising methods. Let's say I have some of those pull tabs that I put in every grocery store in our town. People aren't going to remember where they got your contact information. However, if on the little pull tab you just put a little number on the end, when they call you, you can say, "How did you find us?" They'll say, "Hey, I found a pull tab at the grocery store." You could say, "Could you please tell me what number is on the end of that sheet, slip of paper?" And they'll say, "Oh, that was number 6 or number 2 or number 1." Makes it much, much easier for you to figure out which advertising is working and which advertising isn't. What I like to do is run 2 different ads, like if I'm paid ads on Google or whatever. I test them for a couple of weeks. If one is working great, the other one isn't, I keep the one that's working, ditch the one that isn't, and try something different. Okay? But with advertising, some people say, "Well, I spent $500, it's awful." And then you ask them how much money they made, and they made $1,000. So they spent 500 and made 1,000. You should keep advertising. Some people don't realize that. In fact, if your advertising is working that well, you should expand on the advertising you're doing. Okay. On the blog, we also had a video for Google Plus. You'll want to review that. Decreasing your fixed expenses. One thing funny happened to me. I have health insurance. Got a new update that said, you're gonna, instead of paying X dollars, it's gonna go up to $1,000. I said, whoa, I can't do the grand. So then what I did was I started researching, and I found that the same healthcare company had revised their plans and now had some new ones. So I applied for the new ones, and guess what? I made it and decreased my health insurance costs by half. You can do it. The only thing you have to do is do some pricing research, pitting one against the other. That always works well. Don't be afraid to ask. All they can do is say no. Another thing to think about when thinking about decreasing your expenses is do you really need it? I mean, you have a cell phone for your business. Do you really need, 9,000 gigabytes of usage? No, probably not. The thing I would tell you, when you save money on your business, reinvest it into advertising. That would be my tip for you for today. Hope you learned something. Leave us a comment. You can find us on our blog, cleverapple.com. You can hit us up on Facebook. We hope you have a wonderful day.